Hello friends and welcome to another video lesson from DVO Stuff. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please click subscribe and click the bell so that you can be notified of new uploads. This video is in the playlist called Linux tutorial, and here we'll be learning about Linux file permissions. Okay, so I missed the S on this one. Sorry about that. So permissions. As the name suggests, as the phrase suggests, which is talking about the permissions, they're attached or related to a file or even a directory in Linux, the Linux file system. All right, let's just get started. So the first one that we will be learning is how to view file permissions. Okay. So to view file permissions, you will simply use the list command together with the option -L, which is long, which is something I've covered in a previous video, long back. And again, list, and then the -L, L option means long, which means detailed listing. Okay, so that's the command that you'll be using, but we'll be breaking it down in this video, so don't worry about it. So next is that now that we've known how to use or what command to use to get file permissions, it's important to know also the permission types. Okay. So the permission types, there are three of them. R, which is read. W, which is write, and X, which is execute. Okay, so let me just bring it up there and then I will do a list long again. So if you will look at, so again, the permission types are R, W, and X, read, write, execute. So if you look on the left-hand side of the output of a list long command, this section over here will show you a couple of these, the R, W, the X. They're not always present because it's depending on the permission that is existing or that has been granted to such and such. So I'll be breaking it down, this down for you. But notice that you have the R, the W, the X. Here, this is an R. There's no W, there's no X. Okay, that's what we will be understanding in this video. Again, the R is for read, which is in the case of a file, being able to open a file. That's having a read permission. Write is having the permission or the privilege to edit a file. And execute is, in the case of a shell script, you are able to run a shell script. Even though it's an ASCII file, it's a text file, given the right kind of permissions on the file, to the file, you'll be able to run it as if it were an executable file as you would imagine in Windows OS. All right, so those are the three permission types, R, W, and X. It cuts across, this concept cuts across files and directories, although it's very slight differences. Okay, the next thing we're gonna be learning, related to this are the user categories. Okay, so there are three kinds of categories. We'll also be seeing them in this same output over here, which I'm talking about. Okay, the first are the so-called owner. And then the next is the what you call group. And the next is what you call others. All right, so we know that there are three permission types: read, write, execute, which we can see in the output of a list long command. At the same time, we'll be breaking this down into according to the three user categories. Okay, owner, group, others. Now that you see both of them, you see this, and then you see this. It's good to discuss this now. So if you look at the output of a list long, which is here, and then you focus on the left side, the first character you see is actually, it denotes the file type. So in this case, a dash or hyphen, however you want to call it, refers to an ordinary file. It's a file. It doesn't tell you what type of file it is, but it is a file. Okay, in this case, this is a text file. Although it's not because of the extension, but it's because internally Linux will have a check being done to it. Okay, we'll learn about another command later on, not today, on how to determine a file's type. But here, just be content and be confident that when you see a dash or an hyphen, it means the whole thing, this thing is a file, right? As against seeing a D, which means it's a directory or folder in the Windows terminology. So that means this Xer object over here is a directory, is a folder, all right? So that's the first thing. The first character is either, these are not the only two values, but these are the most commonly seen ones, okay? The dash means it's a file, the D is a directory. Next, we'll focus on this. This is the topic we're talking about, we are delving into in this video, from here up to the end here, okay? So you can see a couple of RWXs, not all the time, but you would see at least one of them. So these are permissions, file permissions or directory permissions being granted to such and such. So the permissions refer to this file, okay? Now, if you look at the three permission types I'm mentioning over here, R is read, W is write, X is execute. So it means here, read, write, and execute has not been granted. Read, there's no WX here, it's not been granted. Here also, only read has been granted. But you see three sets of these in threes, three threes, okay? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. These three are the three user categories, which are in that order: owner, owner of the object, owner of the file, or owner of the directory, that's owner; group, the primary group to which the owner belongs to, okay? And others. All right, let's just talk about that for. So if you look at this listing over here, and then you will see here, in my case, it's DBOS and DBOS. It's so when you create a user in Linux, by default, it will assign that user, if you will not specify it during creation, that user or user ID will be assigned to a group, a primary group, which is of the same name by default as the username, if you haven't specified it during creation. So in this case, there's a user ID or username called DBOS, which belongs to this primary group, DBOS. That's the meaning of that. So this is actually the owner of this file, okay? And this is the group to which this owner belongs. This is the user's primary group. Primary because there can be more than one groups that a user can belong to. A group is simply a logical grouping of users with somewhat similar permissions. It is for convenience and ease of use of the system administrator. Okay, so it facilitates system administration so that you know when somebody belongs to a certain group, you know more or less they have similar needs, as well as far as access and permissions are concerned. Okay, so again, this is the owner of this file. Sorry. Talking about this file, this is the owner, and this is the group that that owner belongs to, primary group. So same thing here, when you look at the permissions, the first RWX set belongs or are the permissions of the owner, which is DBOS. The second RWX permissions belong to the group. And the third set of permissions are for others, meaning in this case, talking about this file, this 12.txt, the owner has read write permissions. It makes sense because you don't execute a text file which doesn't do anything. All right, so the owner has read write permissions on that file, on this file. The group it belongs to, other people who are in the same group as this DBOS guy, only have read permission, whereas others, users who are neither the owner and don't belong to the same group as this guy, also only have a read permission, okay? So let's move on to the other. Here, again, the first character is talking about the file type, which is the directory. So this Xer object over here is a directory or a folder. Now let's again break down these three sets of three. That means the owner, which is DBOS, again, it belongs to the primary group DBOS, same name, but different, it's talking about something else. This is the user or the owner. This is the group he belongs to, primary group. So the owner of this Xer directory has RWX permission. Okay. The owner has RWX permission on Xer directory. The group only has Rx, read execute permission or permissions on the Xer directory, whereas others also only have read and execute permissions on the Xer object. That's what it means. Okay, so put it simply, just to summarize this thing. So we're talking about file permissions as well as, of course, directory permissions. So think about it. If you want to check out the permissions, the file permissions, you will just use this command, list long, very easy. Next is that there are three permission types. RWX meaning read, write, execute. Okay, read, you can view it. Write, you can edit it. Okay, execute, you can run it. And then finally, you have three user categories, the owner, the group, others. And they are in that sequence when you look them out, when you see them in the output of the list long. So RWX, if it's there, RWX if it's there, and RWX if it's there. This belongs to the owner, to the group he belongs to, and finally to others. Okay, so that's it for now. And in the next video, you will be referring back to the knowledge that we learned from this video as we learn maybe three commands, not in the, I'll break them up into separate videos as well. Okay, thank you for watching and listening. If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe and spread the word. And I'll be seeing you in the next video.